Okay, in this video I'm going to have a look at how to delete error codes in EDC 17 files. I've got one open here which is VW Tiguan EDC 17 file. At the moment I'm right at the beginning near the checksums, and if I move along you will see the start of the file. Now I'll ignore some of this stuff at the beginning because it's fairly irrelevant to what we're looking at. Now, just out of interest, you get various blocks of data here. This is all heal and error debounce data blocks. They're quite difficult to work out which is why I'm ignoring them. I'll keep going along here. Now here we've got another block. This is the error paths, but I'm going to come back to that later. I'll keep going along. What I'm looking for is something that looks familiar. This is a shutdown or a fade out mask table, and then here I've got an error code block. Now if I move that so it's more or less central, that whole block highlighted in red there with a red square around it, that's an error code block. Now that might be an OBD code block, it might be a manufacturer specific code block, so it might be for VAG only codes, or, and you get this a lot with EDC 17, it might be neither. In other words, this might just be a block of codes, so it might have some manufacturer codes and some OBD codes muddled in a big lump. Now if we keep going, there's always two blocks, so if we keep going we should find another block that looks virtually identical, and here it comes. So here we've got another block, and if you're familiar with the shapes of some of these you might recognize this bit here. This is the second error code block. Now if the first one had been OBD codes, then this one would probably be VAG codes. If the first one had been VAG codes, then this one would probably be OBD codes. Now in this particular file they are neither, they are just block 1 and block 2, and they are virtually identical, but they're not identical. Now this means that if you need to find a code, let's say you want to look for a particular error code, you will need to search this block and you will need to search the first block we came across, this one. So you will need to search both blocks. Now at this point, to search the blocks, obviously you would need an error code. Now let's assume that you've got an error code that you want to search. So let's go search byte sequence. Let's pick one out. Oh, there's one already there, that will do. Look, 08213. So I'll use that as my search. So I'll go searching for 08213. I think that's a swirl flap code, but it doesn't really matter what it is. It just gives me a code to go and look for. I'll move the cursor to the left of this first block because I want to search in this first block. So I'll just move the cursor over there. And then what I'll do then is I won't click OK, because if I do that I'll get one answer and then the box will close. So what I'll do is I'll just click the forward arrow, and it's found something, presumably, because it's jumped. Now obviously finding something in all of this is meaningless because what I need is a text view. So I'll go to a text view, and there it is. Look, it's found 08213. So it's found that. And if I click again, it's found another one next to the first one. So I've got 08213, and there it is, I've got again. And if I click, there it is, it's found it again. So that's a third attempt. And if I click again, it's found it again, so that's 4. So I've got at least 4 versions of that one error code. Now remember, I'm only in the first error block, so I'm going to tell it to search again, and here we are. It looks like it's jumped to the second error block and it's found one there. So one again, second one there, third one there, fourth one there. Now out of interest, let's just click again and see what happens. So it's gone off and it's found another one there, look. And if I look over here, it's right at the end of the file. Now there is no way that that is part of what I'm dealing with at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll just jump back, tell it to go back to the previous one. So we found 4 of these codes in this second error block, and then if I jump back to that one, then that one, then that one, and that one will take me back to the first block. And here we are in the first block, and in fact if I move this down like this we can see them. Look, there they are. There's one there, second one there, third one there, fourth one there. So I've got 4 error codes for that error code. So if I want to turn off that error code, I'm going to have to do it 4 times at least. If it was an EDC16 file that we were looking at, these error codes would feed into error paths, and there is a ratio of roughly 4 to 1. In other words, there are 4 possible errors linked to one path. Now with EDC 17 you don't get that. So in other words, what you get is one code is one path. Another version of the code, that's a second path. So in other words, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 error paths that we will need to look for. Once you've found these in one block, if you find them in the second block, they should be in exactly the same place. That means that you only need to turn off 4 paths connected to this first block, and it will turn off the same 4 paths that the second block are connected to. So it's job done. So you don't actually need to make changes based on this block and on the second block, because whichever block you choose, that will turn off both blocks for that set of codes that you're looking at. Now at this point life would be simple, and it would be simple if we knew where this block started. And this is where the problem comes in. Where does this block of error codes start? Now if I go back here, how do I know where the beginning is? Now the big problem with knowing where the beginning is that the numbers are not that helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to 2D view. If I go back to 2D view, here's a good clue. If we look at the block of information that was before the block that we're interested in, if you look, most of the values are very, very similar, and they're all in the region of 32768. They all tend to peak at 32768, and then suddenly they either drop down to virtually 0, or they suddenly jump up in the air depending on where you're looking. I mean, these obviously are suddenly much higher, or right down there is a little spot where they've gone right the way down to virtually 0. But it's this level and then sudden jump up which is the clue to this area. So the start of this block is probably here at the interface between this level point and the jump. So what you would normally do is you would find a point here and you would click. Now obviously when I do that, this block highlights, but that won't do that on a normal file. And then if I go to text view and look where I am, well look, that's where I am. So it's taking its best guess that this block here starts at that red highlight. Now in this particular case that's not correct, but it doesn't matter because it's got us very close to the start of this block, hasn't it? It's picked there, and this is the block we're looking at. Right, now let's go and look at the second block and see if the second block is any easier, because sometimes one block is easier to work out than the other one. Now if we look at this one, there is nothing before it. So if we go to where we think the start probably is, which is the edge of that block there, and then we go to text view, if we have a look now, you can see nothing before it, which is what we said. There's something that could have been part of a block that isn't there. In other words, that might have been something to do with axes for a map, but it's not there. These are all greyed out, so they are non-functional. And then if we look here, we've got 5 zeros followed by lots and lots of numbers that are not zeros. Now that would suggest that this here is the first error code, but in fact EDC files usually start their first error code at 0. Sometimes it's 4 zeros and a 1, but it's very often 0 or 4 zeros and a 1. So this is often a very low number, and that's because this first code is often not used as a code. It's often used as a sort of starting point, but not a code. So the first real code would be here. But of course, if we want to count codes, we would have to start from here, because this would be the first code. Now if I look at this, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 going across there. Now I'm going to press W a couple of times and bring that down to 20 and then move this over, because I don't know if you're anything like me, but my brain doesn't count in 22s. So I'm going to make this 20 wide, and the reason I've done that is you'll see what I've done. That's now 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. And what I've done at that point is I've simply pressed Shift Enter, and I've written in this comment box 100. And I've not chosen any highlights, but I will get a frame in whatever colour happens to be in here. So I'll go back to OK, and you can see what it's done. It's put a tiny frame around that number, and if I mouse over it and hold that still, you might just be able to see that it's telling me there's a value in there of 100. Now I'm doing that because it just makes life so much simpler if you do this. It's so much easier not to make a mistake. Right, there we go then. So we've got 20, 40, 60, 80, and there we've got 200, and again the mouse over is showing me 200. 20, 40, 60, 80, and the mouse over is showing me 300. 20, 40, 60, 80, and the mouse is showing me 400. And then I've got 20, 40, and if I go across to here, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, I've got a code there at 46, and I've got a code there at 47. So what I would do is write a note to myself on a post-it note on a bit of scrap paper, and I would say, right, that code is at 46 and that one is at 47. So in other words, 446, 447. Then I would go and look for the other two, which are down here. Now that's 500, 600, 700, 800, 820, 840, 860, 861, 862, 863, 864, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, and so now I've got 872, 873. So I've found my four codes, my four error codes, and they are positioned in this block. The first one there is at position 446. This one is at position 447. This one is at 872, and this one is at 873. And if I want to count them all the way through, I've got 873, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, and I believe the last one is there, but it's not easy to be sure, but I believe the last one is there, and I think this block is 881 codes altogether. So there you can see that what we've done is we've identified the blocks for the error codes, and we've found one of the error codes in 4 different places. Now it's important, don't give up at this stage, because it's important to go and look for the other block and just double check that you're happy. I'll just get rid of this to get it out of the way, but it's important to just go and check that you're happy that this is the situation in both cases with both blocks, because if it isn't the situation in both blocks, it will give you a clue, and the clue is you've made a mistake. So I'm just going to press Control and the arrow keys to move this around to get things lined up like they were before, and then I'm going to work my way down these again. Right, now there's 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 40. Now we're expecting this one to be 46. So 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, and it is 46, and we're expecting that one at 47, and it is. And then if we go down to the bottom one, here we are on 800, 20, 40, 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 71, 72, that's what we're expecting, 72, 73. So that one and that one and that one and that one are in exactly the same place in this second block as they were in the first block. So we can be reasonably confident that we have found them and they are in the same place. And the other thing that I'm reasonably confident about is that if I go back and I look here, this block looks like it's starting with 4 zeros and a 1, whereas the previous block seemed to start with 5 zeros. And it seems to end here again at 881. Now, if this block had ended at, let's say, 883 and the first block had ended at 881, I would know I was wrong, because they have to be the same size. The numbers in the blocks don't have to be the same size, but the block itself has to be the same size. So if you can't get the two blocks to be the same size, then you know that you're not going to be able to get an accurate result when it comes to deleting anything, because you haven't actually defined exactly where the blocks are. Right, now these videos are working out quite long, I think, so I'm going to stop there and then I'll start the search for the error paths in a different video. So what I'll do is I'll just stop here